recap the past week and where are we going with the season starting in what, a week or so?
Well, if you think about it, Dan, so the Nets found out that he's allowed to practice, that Kyrie was going to be allowed to practice at their training facility. I really think that that was a way the Nets found a loophole because I think they wanted him to show up for work and practice. But clearly something happened between Saturday, Sunday, and Monday when they went to Philadelphia. He was not with the team. The team did not play well in Philadelphia. And then by 11 o'clock yesterday morning, Dan, the statement comes out that Kyrie Irving is not going to be with the team until he meets the requirement in terms of getting the vaccination or if the mandate changes. So there must have been a lot of talk on that bus ride down to Philly because they left Sunday from Brooklyn, returned Monday night after a terrible performance. I think that's the time frame, which is pretty interesting. A lot of conversations clearly took place.
Okay. Explain the policy, the rule here. Is team rule, city rule, NBA rule?
Yeah, it's a city rule. And it applies to San Francisco. I think now it applies to LA and applies to New York City and, of course, Brooklyn, where you have to be vaccinated if you're playing, in a large setting like that. So it does not impact anybody on the Knicks. Every player on the Knicks has been vaccinated. It does not impact any player on the Nets other than Kyrie Irving because he hasn't been able to play in the home games. We know that that Kevin Durant, James Harden vaccinated because they've played already at Barclays Center. Sean Marks was asked directly yesterday whether or not, can you just say officially whether Kyrie Irving is vaccinated? He said we wouldn't be in this position right now if he were. Here's the one caveat, though. Visiting players don't have to be vaccinated as a visiting player to go to those places. So Kyrie Irving, in theory, I think it's the 41 home games plus the 2 games in New York City because, New York, New Jersey resident, and then he'd be available for 39 games. But the Nets have said, no. We don't want a part-time player. We only want a full-time player.
But what about Toronto? Toronto's got some guidelines. Can he get into Toronto to play?
Yes, that's the one place he can play. And remember, too, what the NBA is going to do for players, Dan, that aren't vaccinated, you're going to have to get multiple tests during the day. You're going to have to, social distancing, everything like that. They're going to make it very difficult for the players that aren't vaccinated to kind of be part of the group and part of their teams.
What kind of trade market, what kind of trade value does Kyrie have?
I don't know if there's much. No one is questioning his talent. We've all seen what he can do. You go back to 2016, the 41 points in Game 5 against the Warriors, the biggest shot in the history of that franchise when he beat the Warriors with the Cavaliers. But really with Kyrie, Dan, it's a lot of drama. It's a lot of headaches, and it's not enough basketball. His first year in Brooklyn, and there are a number of reasons. He gets hurt a lot, 20 games. Last year, 54. They have played in 3 playoff series. He's really only been available for 1. And remember, Kevin Durant left. Think about it. He left the Warriors. He left Steph Curry. He left one of the best teams in the history of the sport to come to Brooklyn to play with Kyrie. Kyrie's not available, but Kevin Durant is out there playing, as is James Harden.
Yeah, it's just, I can't imagine what Kevin Durant is thinking right now because, he's got this opportunity, thought that they had created something. And the overwhelming favorites. He wants to win these championships to be included in the conversation with LeBron and some of the all-time greats. And meanwhile, you have this. Like Kevin Durant can't convince Kyrie, or James Harden can't convince him. That surprises me.
And I would have to think, the net owner Joe Tsai, Sean Marks, the general manager Steve Nash had a lot of say in what happened. But I find it hard to believe that they don't run this by guys like Kevin Durant, James Harden, even Blake Griffin, who's a respected voice in that locker room. I would have to think that if Kevin Durant is sitting there saying, absolutely not, do not do this. This is a joke. I'm going to be so upset if you tell Kyrie he can't play. I don't think they do it. Kevin Durant has to be involved in this decision. And you mentioned, the one thing about Kevin Durant, go back to last year. Here's a guy that missed over 530 days because of the Achilles injury. He has the very good playoff. He's basically on his own, but he was outstanding, especially in the 2 games in Brooklyn. What did he do a month later? He went to Vegas to play in the Olympics. Dan, this is a guy that has already won 2 gold medals. Mm-hmm. He's accomplished everything there is to accomplish. That's how much he loves playing. Think about Ben Simmons, who plays for the Australian national team. He has an awful playoff. He says, I'm not going to the Olympics. And now you have this situation with Kyrie. Kevin Durant loves to play basketball. Sometimes you wonder about the commitment of certain players, and I think Kyrie and Ben Simmons fall into that category.